Welcome to Parts Hold. Today we are going to make history in the world of Parts Hold with our first double episode. That's right, so much information packed in, we couldn't fit it into one episode. So we are going to give you the best practices from the best performing parts departments across the United States. And if Cliff would travel there, Canada too, but he doesn't. And we're also going to talk about the Honeycutt family reunion and much, much more today on Parts Hold.
We'll be right back.
I am so excited to be writing Parts Hold history. Do you know what the history that we're doing right now is, Cliff?
I don't. I would guess, but I'm scared that I would mess it up. So no, I don't.
Yeah. So the truth of the matter is that if you did know, you'd be living inside my head, which is a very frightening place to be.
Completely agree.
But the reason that this is Parts Hold history, this is the first 2-part episode we've ever had.
You're right.
Can you say cliffhanger?
No pun intended.
Pun absolutely intended in this case.
Completely intended. That's funny.
But first, I would love to hear what's going on in your world, Cliff.
So much going on in my
And
world.
more importantly than me hearing, the listeners and viewers want to know what's going on in your life. I get asked about you a lot.
Yeah. Man, there's so much going on for the stuff that my oldest son is experiencing in his life and just the growth that he's experiencing, the stuff that my middle son's doing that I can't even speak about. That's so wild to me. My daughter graduating high school and going into college, doesn't even make sense to me. Man, just the things that we're experiencing within our organization and the wild growth that we're experiencing. And man, I've got a kind of a family reunion coming up this weekend.
Okay. So a Honeycutt family reunion sounds amazing to me. First off, my first question is Matt going to be there?
Of course, Matt will be there. I think he's coming up Friday night and going to stay at the house, which we're going to have a lot of people staying at my house. And yeah, he'll be there.
Is this like the Olympics where every 4 years it is held at a different location?
Nope. It's so the community that I live in, Indian Trail, is if you sandwiched another town in between between Charlotte and Indian Trail, it's a town called Matthews. Well, Matthews has a downtown area to which my grandparents, whom are still alive, live in the downtown area. And in the early 70s, they helped kind of start a festival, if you will, of sorts. At the time was called Stumptown Festival because that's what the town was called. And it's just morphed into this big festival. It's one of the largest parades in the state. And they shut the town off at my grandparents' house. Like they're the last house before the road shut off there, and there's no traffic in front of theirs, but they're on a main street. And so we just hang out there, have a big cookout. All the family and friends are there. People come by and visit. They come by and visit. It's always been, it's a big thing for my grandmother. So it's a blast. Sometimes it gets a little rowdy by sundown.
Yeah, I can only imagine. And then to prepare for this, you've decided not to eat this week, which is super interesting to me. But also for clarification, I know I've seen a couple of rumors. Indian Trail is not a minimum security prison, and Cliff is not on work release. So he's free to kind of go about the states as long as he doesn't leave the country as he would like.
It's just Canada.
It's Canada that you can't go to?
Yeah.
Have you ever been to Canada?
I really have not. No, never have. And we have tons of clients that I've talked up to.
Yeah, but one of my favorite things about Cliff, I don't know if you'll remember this or not, but when I interviewed you, do you remember you told me, I'm okay with travel, but I don't want to go anywhere outside of the United States? Do you remember saying that to
Yeah,
me?
specifically anywhere north.
You said I was trying to not go there, but yeah. So Cliff basically made me promise him that I would not send him to Canada. And now that it's funny, he's been with us for 4 years, and he loves the Canadian clients. There's so many of them that you get along with, you talk to on a regular basis, and I feel like if it weren't for the cold weather, you would consider going up there. But you were staunch about your lack of desire to go north.
Yeah, I definitely would go May, June, or July.
Yeah, like you'd now go, like I could see you going to Toronto, Calgary, or Vancouver.
Absolutely.
Like I feel like those are places that you would go without even any
In
hesitation.
fact, any fine Canadians ask, this Southern guy would be glad to come up there and do a visit.
Yeah, they'd probably do that thing like we do with British people where they'd ask you to say words because they sound funny to them.
Yeah, it's very
Like
true.
you'd be that guy.
Yeah, very, very true.
All right. So let's chat about our 2 episode topic. And I love this because there's only one person in the world that can come up with this list, and it is directly from observations in the field. So Cliff has been traveling around for quite some time now, going and seeing different parts departments around the country. As a matter of fact, I have to talk to you about this. There's a group that wants to actually have you come out for a week and to visit a few of their stores, and I think that it's super exciting. Like there's just a lot of momentum that happens when you go into a store, and the parts managers get more engaged and they become more part of the team, and I love to see that. But in his travels and working in these parts departments, he has assembled not the Avengers, but he's assembled a list of best practices that he's seen um, clients. There's probably actually some other things you've gotten best practices from a couple of people that you know and have worked with for a long time. Not just clients, but also just kind of out in the observing the world. But this is a 2-part list of the best practices that Cliff has seen in the field. And I feel like there's probably, and you'll have to just correct me if I'm wrong, I feel like there's probably a little bit of an order to this. Like, is number one your big aha?
Yes. And some of the it's funny when you start thinking about, because I take tons of notes when I'm in a store, whether I'm working strictly with parts or whether it's a service visit as well. But you start taking notes, and just mental notes and physical notes. Um, and some of these might sound very familiar to some of the listeners that are faithful, but the reality is, if you're doing these things at a high level, like these are all things that I've picked up from stores that are doing things at a really, really high level. So yes, there is an order for sure. It is going to kind of count down, um, and the last one will probably maybe shock some people. Maybe
Mm.
a little
Speaking of high
suspense.
level, this just occurred to me to ask you this. Amongst all the parts departments you've gone to, what's the highest net to gross you've seen?
62.
Okay, so you are ahead of me. I have a couple of stores that I work with really closely that are in the 50s, but 62 is getting it done on another level.
Yeah, yeah, like
That's high performance. So if you're wondering this list where it came from, this is from the best of the best in the industry, not just stuff that Cliff's seen. Like he's pulling notes from the people that are doing it at a level that most people don't think is possible. Is that pretty fair to say?
very fair to say. Very fair to say. Yep. And the other thing I would tell you, Christian, too, is if because you're going to want to take, if you're listening, you're going to want to take notes. If you're driving, don't take notes at the same time. That's a public service announcement. The other thing that I would say is don't overthink it. Is the other piece that I would add in there. Like don't make it too complex, and don't try to read too much into it. Just listen to it and then put them in practice.
Do you have that fear that that our viewers and listeners are going to go and read too much into it?
Well, I think they're going to think like they're, I feel like a lot of times when you're talking to people, I know you've experienced this. In fact, if you go back to some episodes of SDR that I was on, uh, kind of made the accusation to Chris that he was doing some trickery with something so basic as handles to the drawer in the new kitchen when the kitchen was brand new in the office. But
Oh, that's funny.
I think sometimes people think that we're trying to play some kind of mind trick on them, and I'm really not. I'm legitimately giving them a list of things that I've collected and seen that stores that are, you know, in the 40s, in the 50s, brushing the 60% net to gross. Uh, these stores are doing them on a really, really high level.
Yeah, and sometimes it's the most basic things that give you the biggest bump.
Yeah, yeah.
That's I think that's a really good way to kind of frame this, is that like, don't be surprised at some of the things that he's got on his list in their simplicity.
Yes.
And don't discount the difficulty of execution at a high level of some of those simple things.
Yeah.
How'd I do?
Yeah, it's
Good
great.
little tie that thing up in a bow.
That's great. Yeah. In fact, you tied into my number 10.
Oh, I did, didn't
You
I?
did. Let's avoid the discount conversation.
This sounds evasive to me, but I feel like you're going to explain.
Yeah, I think the thing that happens is when we're trying to grow a business, and specifically when I was thinking about this, I was thinking of some of the clients that have large wholesale operations. Discount's not the only conversation that they're having. The other thing is that everybody's coming in because for some reason the financial gurus of the world have told them that they should never pay retail for anything, and that specifically in the automotive world they can ask for a discount and that we're automatically going to give it to them. I don't know if you've experienced that, but that's 100% happening. And the stores that are operating on a high level are avoiding the discount conversation. They're just moving that out of the narrative, so to speak, that it doesn't become relevant in the conversation.
I like that. Okay. So, man, yeah, that it doesn't become relevant. And that's kind of the model behind almost any type of sale. So I always think that, even going back to when I sold cars,
Yeah.
I knew I was in trouble if we were talking about the price.
Yeah. I mean, and listen, customers are really, really sharp these days, and they're doing their research online. The stores that are providing a different value, discount doesn't even come into the conversation most of the time.
You know what phrase I use all the time?
No.
And I don't know, maybe it's too bold for parts people to use, but maybe not. I am unapologetically not the cheapest in town.
Yeah, I've used a different analogy, but it's the same language. Like, for sure, I provide such a great experience that the conversation of discounts it's not relevant.
Yeah, you could say stuff like, someone says, can I get this cheaper somewhere else? Yes, you absolutely can. And while you're at it, why don't you find a cheap plumber?
Might not be the best route to go, but it's very true. It's very true.
So sarcasm and snarkiness is not the road to the sale.
I mean, it's probably not How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie level, but it might be. It could be.
You know what's funny is the first person that called me snarky was Coach Hoagland. Oh. And I didn't know what the word meant, so I had to go look it up.
That's 100% can see him saying that.
Yeah.
And if anybody's,
he just thought it was a normal.
If anybody's good at sarcasm, it's him.
Yeah, he's good at sarcasm, but I didn't know what snarky meant. Snarky is like, the definition is a little more evil. So I don't really try. I don't think I'm trying to be snarky. I think it just comes off that way sometimes.
Yeah, unintentional.
But I'm very cognizant of my responses sometimes now, way more than I was before. I just spoke my mind before.
Yeah.
Now I'm aware of your feelings, Cliff.
Yeah, I could be accused of wearing mine on my sleeve in certain instances, but in other instances, I don't.
Yeah, now you just tattoo your sleeve and you're fine.
Yeah, that's right. So speaking of that, I'm going to get my next one.
So, okay. Can't wait. So avoid discount is number 10, I think is what we're calling it. So
Yes.
now we're down to number 9.
Number 9 is they are involved in online sales. It is here, if you're jumping into the bandwagon or considering it or whatever, we've said it multiple times, you could be behind the 8 ball on this. I'm telling you, there's so much. This could go into a really in deep conversation that would have to be for another time. But online sales, it's time we start figuring out how to be involved in it and how to make it really, really simple for the customer.
Online sales work. There's no better example of that for parts departments than OnlyFans.
Ceiling fans?
Yes, ceiling fans. But yeah, so what is a really good online store look like for a high functioning dealership?
It's clean, it's accurate, it's simplistic. It's really easy to navigate. It's really easy to check out. It's really easy to perform returns. Like all that stuff comes into play for me.
Don't you think that Amazon's kind of made the roadmap for how an online store should work, and all you got to do is copy it?
So there's a particular brand of clothing that I like to purchase um, from time to time. I don't purchase it every week, but I just recently purchased some of their polos, and my desire was kind of just to change up the look or whatever. Well, I got the polo and I didn't really like it. They make the return process so simple. It's the reason why I continue to pay the exorbitant fees that I think the clothing are. So going back to number 10, number 9 ties into that. Like the price doesn't matter of the article of clothing. I like it, I'm going to wear it, and they provide a great service.
Oh, that's a great thing to kind of put, is because the desire to buy online is not about the price, it's about the ease of use. And I think I've said this before on this show. I definitely talk about it on SDR, but frictionless transactions. That's what I think about with parts departments and their online store. Is it a frictionless transaction? And believe it or not, the highest value activity you can do is an easy return.
Yeah, just to your point, Amazon led the way probably for that, but just the ease of being able to order something if it doesn't fit your need or doesn't fit what you want, just the ease of returning that. We've made that overcomplicated, and we'll get to why. Maybe probably won't be in this episode, but we're going to get to why we've made it overcomplicated. But yeah, we just got to make that process way easier. We got to make it easy to check out. We've got to make it easy to do business.
Yeah, exactly. So would you hire someone to build your online store that knew what they were doing, or would you try to do it on your own?
I definitely would because I don't know enough about building that type of thing, and I know that there's several companies that do a really good job. But I think if you're plenty capable, yeah, I would say build it. I tried to do one for another business a long time ago, a personal business venture, and I was able to do it, but it didn't look like it should have. So for me personally, it would
Yeah,
be I would probably hire somebody to make it really really nice, and I don't think that the cost associated with it. I think it would be easy to cover that expense.
I would hire my marketing director, Matt. That guy's amazingly talented. Hey, Matt, this is for you. Oh, go on. So we're down to number 8. This was one of my favorite ones on your list.
Yeah, number 8 is a boutique. Um, I wish there was a way that I could have a picture of all the really cool boutiques that I've gone to and seen. Um, but
That's not a bad
and
idea.
then
You
putting
know
them
that, right?
yeah, and then putting them up in this episode would just be really really cool to do. But there's some great ones. You know, just some really really great ones that are focused on what's going on in their area. I was just at a store that's in a kind of a not remote area, but it's in the woods in the mountains, and they had a big focus on Sasquatch, which I
Oh,
love.
that's great.
But it fit the theme and it fit what they were trying to do, kind of like some of the stores that you see in Florida that may have Yeti coolers and Costa sunglasses. Like there's a whole theme there that you can create. Man, I wish I could go back. I'm not going to share the term because it would lead down another road, but it's the thing that Chris talked about at one of our quarterly meetings in Dallas. That's the whole thing I think about. So a boutique with tons of accessories that you're aiming to achieve an outcome, and that there's intentionality behind what you're trying to create, and have some fun with it. Be creative. I think that's the other thing that stands out with that too is the creativity that's been involved in the stuff that I've seen is so much fun. So much fun.
Yeah, I think that the best boutiques are such an expansion of the traditional parts business. It reminds me a lot of, and I think I told you this that my fiance bought a Zumba studio, right?
Yes.
So so my big thing is, if we invest in a business, can we monetize it? Can we make money? Is it going to be profitable? Everything like that. And I've done a lot of homework. I've learned more about the Zumba business than I ever thought that I would. And you know what I've come up with the realization of is that we will make more money out of our boutique than out of the Zumba classes.
That's a
The selling
that's
of merchandise, Herbalife, waters, um, it's pretty amazing what the opportunity is when you have a boutique situation. And like thinking about the Zumba people and the people coming in and going into the boutique at the car dealership, like they're in the magic, right? So they're in the dealership and they're thinking of their vehicles and what can they do and what is, how does it kind of identify them? And it's the same thing at the Zumba studio. It's like, oh, I need new Zumba shoes or new Zumba clothes, or I want to, what do they call those things? A smoothie. But they're adjacent products, but they're not exactly your traditional parts department product, but they can be super lucrative. And I think that people that are doing that at a high level have just unlocked that key into lifestyle. And then, at the end of the day, it's tribalism, right? And you have a really good example of this, don't you?
I don't know what you mean.
Oh, it's funny. I don't know why we have pre-production meetings because it's not like Cliff is going to remember the things that we talked about. But I think it starts with a cross and ends with a fit.
Yeah, no, I was saying with the tattoos. That's why I said that.
Uh huh.
Anyway, yeah, the CrossFit thing, like those people are selling the T-shirt. Like, think about how many people that you meet that are participate in CrossFit, and they all have the T-shirt, they all have the particular shoes, and those places are selling that. It's not about the gym membership; it's about being a part of that clan and that group. Yeah, there's tons. I mean, you could think of tons of examples that would fall into this category.
You want to know how to tell if somebody's in CrossFit?
Give them a couple minutes, and they'll tell you.
They'll tell you.
There's another thing that's that way too.
Should I be able to get this?
Um, Maybe not, because I don't know that we've ever talked about this, but I, I'm borderline on the verge of offending a lot of people. I mean, I think we might have with the CrossFit thing.
Let's do it.
Vegans.
How can you tell somebody's vegan?
Yeah,
They tell you.
give them a couple
Yeah,
minutes.
that's the
I'll tell
same
you.
exact thing.
Yeah, it's
I love
great. That's
it.
great. But again, be creative with the boutiques and have some fun. Number 7 on the list is the ability to have an efficient inventory, and I think that that's you know it permeates to me when you see a car down situation in a shop. These stores that have the really efficient inventories, that's the exception, not the rule. The stores that are really focused on having efficient inventories and really have a good phase in, phase out criteria, and they have some other things that we're going to talk about further down on the list. But the efficiency of their inventory and their ability to turn and move it allows them to have obscure parts that you wouldn't think they had. As a parts manager, one of my favorite things that I would hear a technician say would be, "Well, I can't believe we had that."
That's great.
It was just,
What?
yeah, it kind of made you feel good, like, oh man, I did something right. Like I had the thing that they didn't think that I would have, and I got the car taken care of. So the efficient inventory. Don't neglect our ability as parts managers to have the ability to control how quick the and how good the customer experience is by having the efficient inventories.
I really dig it. Okay, so I think we got one more for this episode.
Yeah, and
And I like this one a lot.
this one's big for me.
I'm surprised it didn't crack the top 5.
I really could have moved it further into the top 5, but it's so important that I felt like it deserved a place at the bottom of this list because it was so important to me. But it's being a good partner within the dealership. I think we lose focus of that.
And I think that the way that you unpacked this and explained it to me made all the sense in the world and supports my belief that the parts department's like the anchor for the dealership. Like it is the thing that holds everything together. But go ahead and kind of unpack it how you did for me earlier.
It's it's the partnership in the dealership. It's my partnership with the sales staff and the sales managers. It's my partnership with the recon centers if I have that. It's my partnership with the detail department that's going to allow me to sell those chemicals, and it's my partnership with the service department and them believing in me and that I'm going to have the inventory, and I get to control as the parts manager. I get to control CSI on a different level, and I get to control the customer experience on a different level by being a good partner with all those areas. The other one is being a good partner with other dealerships in the area. There, we have this belief that there's someone has to lose in order for me to win, and it doesn't have to be that way. It can be a win-win situation. It can be a good partnership all the way around. No one has to lose, and somehow we've got this mindset that there has to be a loser in order for there to be a winner, and I don't think that that's a fair thing to say within the business of the business that we're in.
I love it. Yeah, that's a really, really good one to end on. I don't think you're more right. Could be more right than you are. I would add in there partnership with your own body shop and body shops in the area too. I think is a huge one. But being a good partner is a sign of a really, really it's a best practice of the top performing parts departments in the country. So
Yeah.
Good stuff. All right. Well, that wraps up. So I'm going to have Cliff go through really quickly, and this is numbers 10 through 6 in best practices from the field of observation of Cliff Honeycutt. So go ahead with number 10, Cliff.
Avoid discount is number 10. Avoid discount conversation. Number 9 is online sales. Number 8 is boutiques. You could put / accessories. Number 7 is inventory efficiencies. And then number 6 is partnership at the dealership.
I love it. Well, great job with this list, Cliff. I can't wait to go through numbers 5 through 1 on the very next episode. So stay tuned. See you again in 2 weeks for the final episode about best practices in the industry on Parts Hold.
Here to fill the order.